Days like these, you sort of go, I wonder what's going to happen in the future with video games, right? With this type of announcement, what can we expect to see when it really comes down to services versus sales of video games, software? I think that there's a lot of outstanding questions to be asked there. And with this announcement, it sort of sides with Sony and what they're trying to do versus a Microsoft and what they're trying to do. Now, I don't want to get all crazy about it, but listen, different companies are going to have different approaches to certain aspects of video games going forward. Whereas back in the day, now you have to remember, I've been gaming since like 1986 or so, right around there. So, I'm very much traditional in the way that I like to kind of handle things, in the way that I like to do things. So I am very much into, the idea that we can have both services and the ability to buy our games, and it doesn't really detract one from the other. But with that being said, when you have big companies, third-party companies come out and make these types of announcements, it is a little bit strange, and it is a little bit sort of put Microsoft in a bad spot, because let's just be real, you already have this incredibly large PlayStation fan base that's like hating on everything that Microsoft does and waiting for a Game Pass to fail. Meanwhile, obviously PlayStation came up with their own competitor. Is it going to be as good? I don't know. Listen, I'm not subscribing to it. They would have to do day and date games, which again, that's a touchy subject for a lot of people. So we'll have to see how that kind of works out. But yeah, I do want to hear what everybody else thinks at the end of this. And I'm very curious to see what happens in the future. If more third parties come out and say this type of stuff, to me, it sounds like sort of a win for PlayStation, but I don't want to totally discredit Microsoft in this and go, well, nothing they're ever going to do is going to work, or this is a failure or anything like that, because I think that actually it's the furthest thing from a failure. But I do want to get into it, so let's go ahead and go. So we know that the topic of Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, or PlayStation Plus, or whatever you want to call it, is a divisive topic. People talk about these topics, and people kind of want to know, other people's opinions and thoughts about this, and I understand that. So for me, I was a little bit hesitant to enjoy Game Pass because I'm a little bit old school. And what I mean by that is I like the way things were done previously. And so it seems to me that Game Pass could be some kind of a service that really affects our games long term. But, later on, you start to have a little bit different of opinion. The games got better. Obviously, they're adding a lot of the stuff day and date, which I think is a smart move. And, I think that also what we're starting to see is that, gamers in general are starting to kind of come around to the idea that you can both buy games and still support the industry, and Game Pass supports the industry as well. So when it comes to PlayStation Plus, people think, well, Sony can't do that. They can't do day and date games. For me personally, I look into this and I go, do I believe them? Because Sony is a different company than Microsoft. They don't have the money. They don't have the ability to do what Microsoft does, and that's true. So according to this, new PlayStation Plus gets the thumbs up from Take-Two, who says we can't afford to turn our business upside down, which is a distinct, obvious difference than Microsoft. But again, Take-Two, they only sell games that are, let's be real, GTA 5, 150 million or whatever it is, copies sold. Red Dead Redemption 2, what is that, 50 million? So to them, those are recurring still, even though they're selling them. But I think that both have been in Game Pass at certain points. Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two, has firmly backed Sony's new PlayStation Plus service, which focuses more on a catalog choice of games rather than getting release out on day one alongside their retail counterparts. Speaking with Game Industry Biz, the executive noted that subscription day one releases doesn't make any sense to us in terms of economics, and that he isn't sure consumers are ready to buy into that idea either. And this is what he had to say. Our skepticism has been around making frontline console products available day and date with subscription. That doesn't make any sense to us because economically speaking, we don't think consumers are prepared to pay for that, and we can't afford to turn our business upside down in a way that doesn't make sense economically. There always has been an intersection between what the consumer wants and what the publisher is able to do. And it doesn't make sense to do that for our properties. That's our opinion, and I think Sony agrees with us because it said so. It could potentially be great for catalog properties, sales of properties that have been in the market for a while and their price has been reduced. It can make economic sense to offer those on subscription basis. Now, the new PlayStation Plus rolled out earlier in the week in the US and kind of repositions the service with the 3-tier subscription model. There's PlayStation Plus Essential, basically what we've had for 12 years now. PlayStation Plus Extra, which adds new content from PlayStation Now with PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games, and PlayStation Premium, all the above, plus PS3 streaming, PS2, PS3, and PS Vita games and PSP games. So there's a lot to be taken in right there. When we see these types of announcements and things from these companies, you kind of go, okay, well, I can see right now why so many people would be on this and think, hey, this is exactly right. Sony's right, Microsoft is wrong. But I think you also have to look at what he says. He's like his opinion on his properties, which his properties sell a lot more than the average property does, right? Like, you just have to kind of think about that and realize that, you know, while he's saying, you know, it's not going to be good for, you know, the stuff that he's doing, that, you know, there are games out there that clearly are going to be able to, you know, take better advantage of this. And, you know, day and date for something like GTA doesn't make sense because that's going to sell like hotcakes. Whereas, you know, there could be other instances and other situations where a game might really benefit by being in their day and date. So yeah, I do think that we have to kind of look at this and go, you know, it is a strange situation that we find ourselves in, but I still think that, you know, both can work in different ways. And I think that's the thing people are most kind of, I don't know, they're most willing not to kind of look at, right? Like, people just want to look at things as black or white. They don't want to look at any gray areas in any of this discussion. But the fact of the matter is, what Microsoft is doing for themselves works. What Microsoft is doing for Xbox works for them. And the way that Sony is doing things works for them, right? Like, Sony wants to kind of work in a different kind of angle and do things a little bit differently, and I completely understand that. I think both are really good. I don't think that this is the smoking gun that a lot of people thought it was, like, ooh, this one really shows Microsoft. I don't think it's that, to be honest with you. But I do think that it is it is something that's going to sort of make it seem like that way to a certain group of fans. Is it a blow to Microsoft? I mean, this means we're definitely not going to see anything from Take-Two day and date. But outside of that, I think it really kind of depends on what gamers are after themselves. You know, I think Microsoft has a hard road ahead of them because you are literally trying to change the industry and make things sort of a different way than they had been before, and that can be scary even to people like me. So yeah, but that's how I feel about it. I don't think this is the big thing that a lot of people were trying to make it out to be on social media. It doesn't make sense for a company that's selling, you know, 150 million copies of their game. But I think that it definitely makes sense for Microsoft, who is trying to go out there and be competitive. It does offer value and a reason to, you know, pick up their console and buy into their ecosystem. So, you know, with that being said, I would appreciate you guys if you liked the video. Please leave a like on it. It helps it to be seen and helps the channel to grow. Have a fantastic day. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. Thanks for watching. Crap Gamer out.